Well, welcome back to another episode of the Run Disney Rundown. It's been quite a while since we've all been together. We've got quite a little bit of news to talk about, some big news that we'll hit on right away. But I'm your host, Lake, joined today with my two co-hosts, Steve E. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. And Steve K. How you doing today?
Not too bad. I'm trying to plug my light in. Sorry, I forgot to put that on.
You're good. You got it, or you need a sec?
Nah, go ahead. You guys keep going. I'll get it at some point. So,
but before we get into the news, our main topic this week is going to be marathon training tips and plans. So if you guys have any questions about marathon training, running training, any of that sort of thing, feel free to drop them in the comments. And at the end, kind of during our marathon training talk, we'll go ahead and hit on any of those questions you have. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Steve K. We got some big news today during D23 Run Disney related, which I don't think we've ever gotten Run Disney news during a D23. So that's kind of cool. But what did they announce?
You know, the funny thing was I was like on the treadmill watching it in like my little square of my phone or something like that. And I was like, I was literally thinking, I wonder if I could talk about Run Disney at all. And just about that time, Josh Tomorrow said that 2024, so we got a little bit of time to wait, but I think there's probably some reasons to get everything set up as far as courses go, getting things worked out with the city. But Run Disney will be back to Disneyland. They didn't give any distances or anything beyond that, but pretty excited out here on the West Coast to see that coming back.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you saw any sort of Run Disney social media, this was the number one thing commented on pretty much any post was when are Disneyland races coming back. Stevie, any thoughts?
So I got kind of excited about it, and then it was like, I've never even run this race before, and I probably won't fly 6 hours to do it, but I'm stoked. I mean, I also think I was wondering too, like, are people going to need to sign up for like the Club Run Disney just to get a spot in this thing? It's going to sell out in half a second. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, that thought definitely occurred to Katie and I. I mean, there's still going to be general registration, and I'm sure we'll get more information on whether or not maybe they bring packages back or something like that. That would be very nice. And we also have no confirmation for how many weekends are returning. Disneyland used to have 4 different weekends. You had Disneyland Half Weekend. They had their version of Princess Weekend. They had Star Wars, and then they had the Marvel Weekend. I don't expect that we're going to see all 4 of these weekends return. At max, I bet we would see 2. I think the Disneyland race weekend's going to return. That used to run in September. I think that would be kind of a good time to start Run Disney race weekends again. So that would be my bet as for the first one to return, but we'll see if any other race weekends come back as well.
Like, what were they had, was it the 5K, 10K, like half breakdowns before? I don't know the details of it was. Okay.
Yeah.
They never did a full marathon in Disneyland, right?
I believe they did one.
Oh, okay.
I think they had one. I'm not even 100% sure on that, but I think they did it 1 year and then just never brought it back just because of the logistical kind of nightmare that they have there. Just even doing the half is a lot of road running out there because there's no on property to run on.
There was it you that was talking about which race was it that was almost all in the parks? There was one I was surprised at the distance that actually stayed in the parks as long as it did. Was it a 10 miler or something like that?
The 10Ks are almost completely in the parks. Yeah, I would imagine 5Ks are as well. But the 10K basically ran all of Disneyland and then ran all of California Adventure.
So I just Googled it really quick. LA, there's 3.9 million people that live in LA as of 2020 and 284,000 in Orlando. Now, I know there's way more people than that live in Orlando, but as far as just demand goes, there's just so many people that live down there to that point. The demand will be high.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's so much built up demand for this as well. So expect that to pretty much sell out pretty quickly. Of course, we won't get any information probably until closer to marathon weekend, I would imagine.
Yeah, good point, sir.
If you ever go on a Run Disney Instagram post, as soon as they post something, it almost seems like bots, but everybody's like, when are you going to bring Disneyland races back? Please bring Disneyland. It has nothing to do with whatever they're posting. Every single person is like, please bring Disneyland races
Well,
back.
what's really funny about that is one of my buddies, running Steve, the other Steve of the group,
The real
he
runner.
was there, and he had messaged me. He's like, "It's weird. Usually, RunDisney has a booth here." I was like, "They probably just didn't want people to bash them about how Disneyland races are never coming back." And sure enough, 2 days later, RunDisney races are coming back.
Yeah, and the way I understand it too, it's always the relationship between the city of Anaheim and Disney, and getting the permits and all that stuff together to actually shut down roads and stuff like that so they can put together the race. It's always been a geographical challenge for them. So
Yeah, the Brookhart project. Hey guys, how you doing? Just commented the same thing. But yeah, it was tension between Disney and the city. But I believe Josh Damaro has done a lot to smooth some of that out. But if we don't have anything on that, I'd like to move on to our next topic here. We had a lot of registrations happen. I'm not going to go over all the races and all the themes, but of course, Marathon Weekend registration happened. That was kind of a nightmare for a lot of us. And we'll go over what we signed up for that when we talk about our training plans, but should be pretty obvious that we're all at least running some form of the marathon. Wine and Dine registration obviously happened. Signed up for the challenge here. Neither for you guys, right?
no, Steve, we talked about doing the cash grab of the virtual just to put it in the training block of everything. And also, I do keep the alert on when on Twitter when the races open up. It's just been impossible to try to catch it in time, and it comes and goes so quickly. But if I see that half pop up, I've been trying to register for it, to be honest with you. So
I would love to see you there. I believe
Yeah.
Katie is actually just doing the half as well.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I've been
feeling a little bit better lately. So
good.
tempted.
That
I'm
makes me
tempted.
happy and excited.
Yes.
And then we'll circle back to marathon, but we had Princess Weekend, signed up for the challenge as well. Neither for you guys.
I feel like I'm bringing it lame this year.
No, I asked my wife and I've done it before, but I don't know. I just skipped Princess this time. I feel like it's always one or the other, either Marathon Weekend or Princess Weekend.
I'm so bad because Princess was my first weekend, so I have such a soft spot for it, but it is probably my least favorite weekend. If I had to pick one to skip, it should be that one.
Mhm.
But I'm always like, oh, I gotta sign up for Princess.
You got the bug, man. You're not going to miss a weekend. Let's put it that way.
That's true. I mean, we are planning for Disneyland 2024.
Yeah.
So
You've already got the whole year circled off there.
yeah, I'm basically, we were like, oh, yeah, that's fine. We'll make it work. And then Springtime Surprise, we got Pixar themes, and I don't remember which race is which, but you have Cars, Monsters Inc. What are the other?
Cars is the 5K and Monsters is the 10.
Yep.
And
And then
then
Toy Story.
Yeah.
Toy Story's the half, Finding Nemo
The 10.
or Finding Dory
Yep.
is one of them. So we got themes and signed up for that. Also signed up for the challenge, which is all the races for that one. And Steve E., you're also signed up for that one?
I signed up for the 10 miler. Yeah. I signed up for I thought about the challenge, but it was it's all 3 races, I think, the challenge, right?
Yeah.
And it was really expensive. I think if I remember, so it was like $350 or something like that for
It
all
was
3
more than
races.
that.
It was more,
Over
right?
4, yeah.
It was over
Yeah.
4.
It's 479.
It was $479. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I recall the reason why I didn't do it. So yeah, I signed up for the 10 miler. I've never done a 10 miler. Seems like a good distance. So.
Yeah,
I was convinced I wouldn't do it. I really thought, because I just think it's a little too late in the year in Florida. It's going to be, when I did Star Wars the first time, I mean, it was just brutally hot for me. I mean, it was really bad. But this is even later than that. This is like a week or two later than it typically is in April for that weekend. So we'll see. But yeah, I signed up for the 10.
I didn't think it was too bad this year.
Oh, that's right. You guys did it this past year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good race too. So
Yeah.
10 miles.
Oh, Peter's commenting that we should come to the charity side. Yes, Peter runs for ACS, and he does a great job, and he's running the Chicago Marathon.
Nice.
Yeah, good luck, Peter.
Yeah.
I saw he he ran the what's the 50-50 Squamish.
Yep. Or
That was pretty cool.
and
or was-
Dopey twice. Yeah, he's a maniac.
But all right, so that kind of covers registrations. If you guys signed up for anything for this year, which I'm sure if you're watching this you are, feel free to comment. Let us know what you signed up for. Let's go ahead and get into. We have 2 medal reveals that we're gonna touch on real quick. I'm gonna kind of gloss over Wine and Dine. I think the Coco 5K medal is pretty cool. I do like that one. The rest of them I'm kind of just okay on, which is how I feel about the themes. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on these as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay. I'm so bad, man. I'm not like I don't get too crazy about medals. I'm like the weird Run Disney person. Like I typically I'll give my thoughts on the other stuff later. But a lot of the 5K medals they've been doing lately have been my favorite. To be honest.
I think the 5K for Wine and Dine is the coolest. This Coco one with the guitar shape. Then you have this Raya and the Last Dragon, and that opens up. I don't really like when they do the I did it stuff on the medals. It's not my favorite decision. And then I do actually think this one, the Soul one, is cool because it's like a triple spinner on the outside.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be like moving all over the place. Hard to keep still, but I think that's cool. It's also got the 50th embellishment on that backside. So that backside is, I think, actually maybe cooler than the front side of it.
Yeah, I think those designs are pretty simple, and there's it's good that they bring in some like deep dive kind of IP into the equation, and it's not just recycling some of the same stuff. So I mean, it's hard to recreate these things, I'm sure, every year and find something different to do with them. But they've been finding ways to make them unique. I like them.
Yeah, and then we have the challenge, which is genie themed. This one's really cool. It's like that weird clamp. I don't think I've ever seen a medal do that before.
I was just about to say that. I've never seen that before. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, so that one's cool. And I kind of like that the outside of that one is like a very classic medal look. I wouldn't need every single medal to have the classic medal look, but every once in a while throwing it in is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I dig it. Don't like the I did it though. Not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. Because I don't like those shirts either. I don't know. Not a fan. Sorry if I offended anybody. I think it's always weird to buy those shirts and have access to the merch before you've run the race.
Before you actually...
there's a part of me, it's probably the Sicilian in me. It's like, I think it's a little superstitious to be like, I did it. And then like you walk out of there and roll your ankle and you're like, I did not do it.
I mean, that is like superstition though. Like that's why people won't wear the shirts before the races. Not that it matters if you are someone that does it. Because I think it's good that they give you at least a half decent tech shirt if you're not like a particularly serious runner and you don't have like nice wicking shirts.
Yeah, I'm just being ridiculous.
Do you is the point we're trying to make.
I'm just being ridiculous. Trying to be nitpicky.
I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but I wore my 10 miler from last year's spring challenge today when I was running on the treadmill. That's actually a legit shirt. It's not too bad. They upped their quality. I know we've kind of like dissed on a little bit in the past, but
does the tag just say like generic Run? It's not, it used to say champion.
Yeah, it's not champion. It says Run Disney, but it feels like a better quality, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a better material for sure.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the marathon one and I just had to cut off a string that like you won't be able to see it. It's got like a pull in it.
That has been happening to a lot of the shirts. Like if after you wash them once or twice, there's like some pull in it, or it feels like sandpaper after. I don't even know where my run. I really don't keep them, to be honest with you. I don't.
You just run for the beer, right, Steve?
Dude, they're really. They're really. Some of them have been really uncomfortable. They're like really cheaply made and have felt very much like sandpaper to me.
Yeah.
And they're not that fun to run in, but.
That last 2019 year was rough.
That was so bad. I remember when they switched over and I got that Wine and Dine shirt and I was like, this is horrible. And the sizing was weird.
Yep.
It was
And they got
very,
cut
very
right.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole year, the sizing was weird because I have
Yeah.
the princess shirts and they're all like super big on me.
Yep. Yeah. It was a bizarre year, but I feel like they keep switching the vendor. So, I mean, listen, I guess the expectation is for the prices that we pay. Like I was hoping they'd be like, decent. That the one I did wear the Star Wars one, the champion shirt, one of the first one I did for a while. I used it to run. It was pretty good. But yeah, I just wish they were a little more consistent, a little better. But at this point, it's not a big deal. I don't wear them usually. A lot of people wear them during the race. I don't wear them typically.
I have a pile to be turned into like blankets at some point.
After you finish your race and you mistakenly are a bloody mess, like I was the first time I ran a half marathon, like where I wore like a belt that dug into my skin and like the wrong shirt and shoes that were half size too small, like, and socks that weren't great. Like you get a blister when you do that, and pain will instruct you to get things that are going to be comfortable for you, and never run in something on race day that you haven't run in before is my philosophy. So that's why I'm being snooty about it.
Very true. All right, why don't we move into these marathon medals, because I think we all have a little bit more interest in these, probably audience included. 5K medal. I think this is one of the coolest medals of the weekend. I really
dig
like
that.
This Pluto.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Pluto. Anything with Pluto on it like that.
I dig that. Yep. It might be one of my favorite ones. I like the glasses. It's good. That's a solid medal.
Yep. Nice. They're all kind of cool, funky shapes this year too, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What is
Then
that,
we
Pop
have-
Century there?
Yeah,
They are kind of
pictures,
Pop Century themed, aren't they, too? The medals.
Yep, Pop Century's in the back of all of them.
Yeah.
So then we have the 10K Chip and Dale, another kind of hexagon shape here, and then you can see the acorn is like on a spinner.
So yeah, I didn't realize it was a spinner at first. It's cool. Yeah, that's I like it. The whole aesthetic, like people went crazy when they announced the retro theme. I'm not crazy for all of the medals, but I like this one.
I think overall they're pretty solid.
Yeah.
Half marathon, another cool one. You can see that Daisy and Donald are on a slider, so they'll go back and forth.
Oh yeah. Lake's over there with the magnifying glass for all the cool stuff. I didn't even realize it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wish they would do like a boomerang or like a it's a GIF, I believe, of like when they move. You know what I mean? To show you instead.
That
of
would be a good idea.
Yeah, I wish they would kind of just put up like a boomerang of, of some of the medals so you can see how they move. But alas.
But yeah, I think this is a cool one. This is one of my favorites, actually. I just like that unique shape, the like two triangles.
Yeah, I like that. I dig it.
And then brings us into the marathon. This one I think is a little bit funky. Someone had actually commented when I posted these originally that it looks like a birthday button. Like someone celebrating a 30th birthday, which it is.
My first ever marathon, and I'm like, I'm
not too excited about it.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. A lot of this stuff, typically the medals are just, to me, always better once you see them in person.
Agreed.
I think the actual quality of a lot of the medals they make is very good. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's weird because you have a lot of stuff going on here, right? You got like it's the 30th anniversary, but it makes to me look like a 30-miler race in a way, or like you know what I mean? So unless you realize that this was the 30th anniversary of this marathon, you wouldn't understand what that 30 is representing. There's no way for you to know that looking at this. So it's fine.
I'm guessing you're not going to wear it anywhere outside of the parks anyway. So.
I don't even know where my medals are. No, I do. They're hung up in the closet where my wife hates it. But
the 0 with the Minnie and Mickey looks to be on a spinner, so that'll go up kind of upside down.
Yeah. What's on the back of that one?
Like the phone?
No. The back of the medal. Do they show the back?
They haven't shown the back.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if they did.
So I would have eliminated the 30. Obviously, take out that I did it, and I would have maybe carved out a space, almost like those other medals you showed us with the 50th anniversary on the back.
Do like a double
Maybe,
sided.
yeah, spun it, and you could see like 30th anniversary 26.2. That would have been my way of doing it, but they went big. It's a little.
It does look like it's going to be a
much.
massive medal.
Yeah, I think the actual design of it's cool though. You know, again with the retro aesthetic, and you got the 4 parks represented there, which is cool.
And then moving on to Goofy. So this is like a CD player, and we're not sure if the inside's going to spin or if it's going to like slide out the side. But you can see there's like different characters on the inside. So the inside has to be revealed somehow, because you can see Chip and Dale down there in the bottom. And I think you can see Minnie over on the left-hand side there.
I kind of feel like it's got to slide out, right? I mean, with that much detail on it, you really can't see much to those little things. So it's got to be some kind of slide. Although it looks like the Goofy things looks like you could spin it.
That really grew on me after I kept looking at it, and then Lake again pointed out some of the details on it that I thought were cool. And Steve, you're gonna look real good with a beer around, with that around your neck. So yeah. Although this, I guess this is a '90s retro theme, right? So you would have been at least 40, 50 years old in the '90s. So
that's true.
I was just all night. I was going, how can I
I don't even remember the '90s. Don't know what I was doing.
Oh man.
So then we move into Dopey, which is also another anniversary. I think this one's pretty cool. You have the triangle shape in the back. I think the 10 is a little better looking than like the 30 is.
See, I think Go ahead. Sorry, no, I think if they would have done something like that with the 30th, put kind of some kind of shape in the back, like Steve said, and then kept the 30 down, made it a little bit small. I don't know. This is a good medal. I like this one.
The Dopey has been some of my favorites from the past couple of iterations. I don't know if it's my favorite from this one. There was the one from, I want to say 2020 was awesome, if I remember it correctly.
Is that the diamond-eyed one?
Yeah, I loved that one. That was a really cool medal. I'm gonna look it up here while you guys talk, but I love that one.
But yeah, and then the Dopey does look to be on some sort of like spinner or slider.
10 years, man! I can't believe it's been that long already.
Yeah,
I know.
Wow.
There's people that are perfect in it.
Really?
Yeah. The other Steve is perfect in it.
Oh my god. It's just daunting. I don't know if it's the distance as much as it is just the waking up that many days in a row. That seems brutal.
It's like the waking up, and it's like literally like the marathon is 90% of the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I would just, I don't know, between the carb loading and the caffeine and the lack of sleep, I'd feel kind of nuts by the time Sunday came around. I don't know.
Katie said, peep at the mirror in that. You can see the person taking the picture in the reflection.
I did see that, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But, all right, so we've gotten a lot of requests for us to kind of talk about training and like running training in general. So I thought this would be a good time for us to kind of talk about marathon training plans. We are 15 weeks out from the marathon now.
Wow.
So depending if you're on a 16-week plan, this was the end of the first week. I just officially got on a plan this week, and I'll go over that plan. If you're running the Galloway plan, you're weeks in already. I think you're 7 or 8 weeks in. But no matter where you are, your long run this weekend was probably up there in the 11 to 13 range. So I thought we would kind of talk about where we are. I know we're all kind of in different areas of training, and that's totally okay. And if you're listening at home and oh no, I did not do 13 miles this weekend, that's okay. There are a lot of different ways to train for this. And before we specifically get into that, I am running Dopey. So my training plan is going to look a little bit different from both of these guys. Steve K, what are you running?
So we're signed up for the Goofy Challenge, so the half and the full. We're kind of approaching it a little bit differently, though. So you want me to go into that, or?
We'll circle back. Stevie?
Okay. Yeah.
Just the marathon.
Just the marathon.
Just the marathon. First one for me. First one.
Just
Excited
the
for
hardest
that.
one.
Made the leap.
That was going to go into my second question. So your first marathon, Steve K, this is not your first marathon by any means.
Nah, it's my 6th.
And this is going to be my third, second as part of the Dopey, and all of them have been Walt Disney World Marathon so far.
Nice.
Which I would actually like to change sometime soon,
Mm-hmm.
but we can get into that later. So let's go ahead. We can talk about if you're on any sort of specific plan or what you're kind of working on now, where you're going with that. Either one of you two want to kind of take off on that?
You want to jump in, Steve?
Sure. So I have a little different trajectory than I originally had planned. So I had, after I ran the half marathon back in January of this year, I had some tendonitis in my ankle, and I didn't run for really much, if at all, for months at a time in late winter, early spring. And every time I did, I just kind of kept re-injuring myself a little bit and aggravating it in some way. So all that's to say is, like, I'm treating myself at this moment kind of like a beginner and running a beginning running plan. And I'm just trying to build up a little bit of an aerobic base at the moment, get some time on feet, and just enjoy myself, so I'm not suffering through everything and just being healthy. So I'm trying to run. I'm integrating a couple different schools of thought, like some of the Hal Higdon stuff I've done before. We've talked about that before. I think some of the philosophy there is running on tired legs and some, getting in some like compound work, so that it kind of trains you to suffer through that last 6 to 8 miles, which is where a lot of people talk about where the pain cave is for a marathon. So I just want to build up some time on my feet, get an aerobic base going. And, what I've learned in my very short time in the last 2.5, 3 years of endurance running is you can't run your long runs on Saturday and Sunday like they're a race. You gotta go slow. So 80-20 running, 80% easy, 20% hard. And my goal is just to get one workout a weekend, one tempo run, just to practice, turnover, and run the rest of everything as easy as pie. With my longest run trying to come in around 18 to 20 miles, somewhere in early December. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. So, just want to try to focus on staying healthy through the next 4 months, and not crying by mile 20. So I think I found a plan. I like this guy on YouTube. Oh God, his name is escaping me at the moment. I think he's a physiotherapist, PT, and a run coach. And he has a lot of great videos. I can share it with you guys. And he had created like a beginning run marathon program. It has calls for you running for about 4 days a week, but it doesn't really get you anything above like around 38, 39 miles for the week. And in the past, when I've trained and I've gotten above 30 miles, is usually when I've been pretty sore. I typically get really sore. I know a lot of people go through training blocks. They don't really experience the same levels of soreness and like inflammation that I do. But so I think in the past I've run like more like 5 days a week. I think I'm going to kind of try to condense that down to 4 and really just focus on that easy pace and long run. That's more of a philosophy than it is adapting a plan. I originally started with Galloway, and obviously RunDisney. People love Galloway. I'd probably say, 30 to 40% of people, I'm just guessing, practice it. I don't like walk breaks. It's hard for me to get going again after that. It's not my thing. But if it works for you, do it. I know that's the preferred method in the RunDisney world. Did I make sense? Is that coherent?
Yeah,
enough?
absolutely. Just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
what does your long run build look like? Like, is it basically just straight adding mileage every single week, or is it like up, down, up, down?
Yeah. So in the past, I've always just compound and gone up. And a lot of the marathon training blocks that I've looked at and other ways to try to stay healthy is to put 1 or 2 weeks in there where you're making sure that you're going back down, almost not necessarily a rest week per se, more of a you know, I've never done anything above really like 14 miles. So if you're going to go out and run 15, 16 miles, even at an easy pace, like making sure the next week isn't also, 18 miles that week, going back down to say 14 or 12 miles and then heading back to that 18 space the following week. So it's just being careful about the compound stress on the body. Um, but yeah, it made sense to me. I look back at old training blocks and, lots of volume with lots of easy running has always been where I've had my best success.
Cool. Steve, you want to talk about what you're working on? You're muted.
We'll see if this plan comes together or not, but we're kind of tight on time this fall as far as like being able to get all the running in. And so my wife and I came up with a plan to train for the half, and we're going to kind of run walk the full. So probably if you do that, I've a couple points, I guess. Like Steve, I've used Hal Higdon's and I like his, but I don't follow it like word for word because I think part of it's just you got to know your body, and I think that just wears me down too much to run that much every day. And just with my job too, I can't run it every day, so I try and hit probably about 3 runs and then the long run at some point.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot of plans out there, and if it's your first one, maybe follow it as best you can. But once you've done one or even if you've done a half, you kind of get to feel like how your body reacts to different things, and so what's best for you. Now, the one time I did follow the plan all the way through was when I ran my best marathon. So, to be fair,
yeah. I think let me just make a plug. I also would advise. Really, another thing I've learned, and I haven't done it yet myself, but I'd like to, is to try to get a run coach, someone that can. You could do. There's a lot of like online coaches that can customize a plan for you and do like a basic plan, and then there's a lot of run coaches that will give you like the the one-to-one stuff, the video calls, the conferences. They'll look at all your data and so on and so forth. So there's different options out there for people. I think this time around, there's also a comment, like I'll let you get to that in a second, but it speaks to what I'm trying to do too, is to try to put in more like some cycling, like I've using the Peloton in there as recovery, and also strength and foam rolling, and trying to be much more consistent about that. That's always been something that I think I would lack, and slack off on during a block of training. And I think it's important to try to, continue to stay healthy, is to make sure you're really like foam rolling, doing the after run stretching, and even some of the drills. And you could YouTube a lot of this stuff and find it. It can be very, very helpful.
So I guess I would just say that, like, for me, it kind of depends on what your goal is. For us, it's not to PR or anything like that. It's just kind of to have fun and finish it. And so that's why I'm not putting as much into the plan as if I was really going after a PR the one year that I actually did it and actually did pretty good. But so that's what our plan is, kind of do that, train for the half, but I'm going to go past that a little bit. I think the longest run is 12. And I can't believe Kara just said, my plan is kicking my butt. It goes up to 29 miles. I'm not sure if that's for the dopey that you're kind of working on, but I think the longest I've seen for a marathon is probably about 24 or something like that. So
is that 29, Carrie, is that 29 miles for the week, or is that,
I think that's her longest long run.
I think that's a long run, but maybe I'm wrong.
29, it goes more than what the distance you're running is?
Yeah, that's
I've done training plans that have done more.
Yeah?
In fact, when I do halves, I typically go up to 15.
Yeah. Wow.
I can see that for the half, but man, that's a lot for the marathon. But every plan's a little bit different. I guess the other thing that I would throw out there too is, this is a little bit different, but think about your clothing too. Like if you're just used to running, 5Ks and 10Ks, once you start to getting these longer runs, I never really used Glide before, but once you start getting into these like half, I know I've been lucky, but I mean, when you start running, you start looking at training for the half and the full marathon, that's something that you got to kind of maybe start thinking about if this is your first time.
That's that's the other thing that scares me about dopey, is when you turn the shower on after your run, and you like discover, oh my God, that hurts. It's burning. I'm chafing everywhere. And then like to run 13.1 and the next day I got to wake up and do 26.2.
Yeah. And the other thing is just hydrating. Make sure you stay on top of hydrating with these longer. If you're running this much each week, you definitely really got to stay on top of that. The other thing I add, which I don't know if you guys do this, and this year I know Steve and Blake, you're probably a little bit more proficient or more technical, but I add some protein into my diet as far as like protein shakes and stuff like that to help the muscles build back up, which I don't normally use during most of the year. And then this one might be a little wonky, but I take a glucosamine. I've taken glucosamine for a long time now as far as like helping your joints. So that one's probably debatable, but definitely the protein seems to help me, at least, as far as helping building those muscles mass. But that's one thing I've never done, and I applaud you for doing the Peloton is, but I have been going to the gym and been trying to work on a little bit more core stuff, and that seems to be helping quite a bit too.
Yeah, I think injury kind of taught me to, I always lifted weights and was always doing that stuff and never working on flexibility and all that stuff, especially when I was in college, like a real rockhead. And now, like, I think one of the things as you get older is you realize that you have to you can't take those things for granted quite as much. And, it's just important to try to create a well-rounded plan that works for you. I've just always I've discovered just in running, I've typically had, a lot of people go through runner's knee. That happens a lot. That a lot of people go through the what's the band on the side, the
IT band.
The IT band.
Yeah, the IT band stuff is very common for a lot of people. You get little nibbles as you go. You just feel it. So I definitely do think there's a place for strength and for ensuring that you're doing some drills and some foam rolling. I want to plug someone. I've shared it with you guys before because you mentioned hydration and all that stuff. There's Megan Featherston, the dietitian. She works with a podcast and a YouTube channel called Believe in the Run. She does a show also called Fuel for the Soul. She always, every Friday, will post scientific studies, and on her site, there's like she has clients that she works with, but she also freely shares a lot of like great information about how to calculate how much hydration you need, electrolytes, fuel, protein. She's a massive proponent of making sure that you get your nutrition right and carb loading correct. That's another thing I think reason why I've gotten hurt before is not fueling enough through a training run and not having protein after and like recovering is another way to make yourself vulnerable throughout the process. So there's so much information out there. It gets a little overwhelming. Some of it is pseudoscience and some of it is real. So just find your people and your studies and your science and what works for you.
Yeah, and certainly none of us are coaches or dietitians, so Go out there and find your own information from people who are certified and know better than what we're talking about, because a lot of this is just regurgitated stuff of what works for us from that information. I'm going to go ahead and pitch my marathon plan here real quick, and then we can continue the discussion. I'm actually kind of on two different plans at once. But I'm going to go ahead and put up here. This is the Hal Higgin dopey plan, which I didn't know they had a specific dopey plan.
I didn't realize he had a specific one either.
It's cool. An 18-week plan. I thought it was a 16-week plan. But I actually like this plan as like a pretty straightforward, easy to follow plan. Basically just builds around having the consecutive building long runs. So you see kind of once you get towards the middle, you have a 3, 8, 18. 2.5, 5, 10, 20 is kind of your big simulation build, which is a little bit different from Galloway because Galloway plan has you go all the way up to the distances and do a real simulation. This one only has you go basically do a mini one. So you're running just a little bit short of each of those distances, which I think is still really good. Another thing with this plan too is he actually only has really long runs every other week, and then you'll see on those off weeks it's kind of a like mid-distance run. Now, I'm not following this plan specifically. The parts of this plan I'm using are basically the consecutive building run portions. I'm actually also following the Hal Hagen, I think it's the Advanced Marathon 2 plan. I'm not particularly chasing a time or anything. I was just looking for something to add a little bit more to it, a little bit more speed work. So the plan does look similar to this. The only big difference is it actually does build 2 and then dips a week in distance. So I think I have 13, 14, and then, or no, I did 13 this week, and then next week it's like an 8 or a 9 mile, and then it goes 14, 15, and then drops to like a 10 or an 11 mile, and then keeps building from there. And once a week it has a tempo run, and then the other day of the week it's got some sort of different form of speed work, whether it's hill work or different like track workouts, 400s, 800s, mile repeats, something along that line. But I do think this Hal Hagen dopey plan is very straightforward and easy to follow if you need a plan, and week 1 just wrapped up, so wouldn't be a bad time to kind of get on that. Also, nice thing about this plan, too, is because the big building runs are every other week. If something happens that you miss a week or you're not quite feeling right one week and you miss something, you can kind of, push that off into next week or the later in the week and still kind of stay on track pretty well.
That's the one I used when I got I don't mean to keep saying my best time, but I love that one as far as I felt better on my longer runs, even though you were going on a longer. Does that make sense? Because it goes back and then your next longer run's no longer than like this where it goes 14, 15, 16. But I felt better on my longer runs than I did when I tried to do the one like that one. Like,
yeah, I've always done like consecutive building. I'm kind of excited to try and do the kind of up, up, down. Like this week is a down week. And some of my midweek runs are a little bit longer than usual.
Right.
But it's kind of nice to be like, oh, I ran 13 miles today. And to be like, oh, okay, next week I only have to run 8. It's like that's kind of feels quick and easy in comparison.
Yeah, I think there's a couple schools of thought, I think, from what I understand about cumulative effect and compound effect. Like there's a school of thought that sometimes putting 2 back-to-back kind of harder runs together or running on tired legs will help you. And then there's other plans that kind of believe in stressing your body up to a certain point, but not absolutely just decimating yourself during a training block, which obviously wouldn't be great, which is why you also, a lot of plans call for a taper, typically about 2 weeks out before you go for your run. So, if it's your first time through a training block, you're only going to learn through trial and error, and there's nothing really you're going to be basing it off of. So just have some grace with yourself. And, if you don't get through every single mile and every single workout, you're going to be okay. And then definitely pay attention if things aren't feeling right, through things. And yeah, I really, really would like to go and get a coach at some point though, and like really put in an effort forth for that. I didn't do it this time around because I knew I just wasn't feeling great and it just wasn't the right time. So
yeah, we have a pretty renowned coach like in my local area that I've toyed with the idea of picking up. Definitely a great way to get someone to help keep you on track and build a plan that is going to be a little bit more specific to you as well. And then we kind of hit on this already. I'm going to go ahead and pop this question up here. This is from Amy. Basically learning how to balance strength training with those longer runs. I know, Steve, you said you use some of the Peloton plans. I'm working to try and join a gym here so I can actually go on my lunch breaks and just make something useful of my lunch breaks.
Yeah, there's, again, I don't know. It's just, I've heard things about like doing glute activation workout exercises because it sounds odd, but a lot of people don't really ignore like how much their glutes play a role in their running, and are often kind of weak in that area, and it causes imbalances other places. Just stuff like that I've picked up through the past couple years of running, and how that can really help. And I actually, right after COVID started, I worked with a personal trainer for a little while that put together a plan for me. And I wasn't running that much, but coming out of that space is when I PB'd that fall. And I was doing a lot of plyometric work, jump squats, like all the stuff, the stuff that you might see on like a kind of a HIIT workout, high intensity interval training, things like that. And lots of like burpees, hamstring workouts, all that. And then after I was through with that is when I was feeling my best subsequently to run. It's hard to do those things concurrently though, like go through and do like a 30 to 45 minute work, strength workout 5 days a week, and then also keep up a run training plan. That's really tough. You're going to be, extremely tired going through all that. So I don't know if that made much sense, but even if you can sneak in, I would say 10 to 15 minute, workouts, full body workouts throughout the week, you're going to be better off, I think, in the long run. And we're not even talking like go to the gym and, sit there and squat 300 pounds. Like it could be as much as, just getting in some like lunges and, work like that. That's going to help your running and your form.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different options there. I think about 3 times a week when I was on a training plan and lifting regularly was kind of my sweet spot for lifting. Kind of any of those lower mileage days seemed to work really well. And it is supposed to be good for injury prevention. I believe there's a lot of statistics that basically say, those that strength train regularly in the middle of a training block tend to have better results and stay healthier. Which, I mean, you could argue for almost anything.
Yeah. Kara made a comment that I actually just heard the other day from a podcast I was listening to, that the school of thought is to run your strength. I mean, to do your strength workouts on days you're actually running. Maybe not like on your long run, but, to actually get some lifting done, after a run. But on those days that you run and not doing it, you have DOMS, right? To delayed onset muscle soreness. So usually you're going to feel that. You do your long runs, you feel that the next day. And I think typically the school of thought, again, not an expert, is not to do a strength training on days like that where you're resting and you're recuperating. It's to do your lifting on days that you're running. So
Steve, any final thoughts before you got to take off here?
No, I just wish everybody the best as they start their training programs, and just stick with it. If you miss a day, it's not that big a deal. Don't beat yourself up on it, and just keep at it, and you'll be crossing that finish line in no time, right behind Steve.
Yeah. You'll be on your 3rd beer by the time I get to the finish line, sir.
How about that?
I got friggin' Maverick over here being sandbagging the whole through the training block. He won't go for a run for like a week and then get out there. He's like, just did a 12-miler, 7:39 pace.
not this year, but anyways, no. So I'm glad this is back.
We see your training runs. We know what you do.
Yeah. I'm glad this is back, and thanks for getting it going again.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Steve and I will keep going, answer any other questions we have real quick before we close out the show. But thanks again for joining us, and
all right,
Steve, we'll see you on our next show.
Cheers, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care, Steve.
Bye.
But yeah, we did have a comment that said, agreed, 20 to 15 minutes is better than nothing. That is a point that I make to one of my buddies that I worked with for a couple years, who used to always struggle. And it's like, listen, man, you can plan all these 50-minute workouts, 45-minute workouts, these runs, this and that. But the 20 minutes that you do is way better than the 50 minutes you didn't do, which Absolutely. Can go for strength training, running, basically anything in that area.
And look, life happens, things happen that will, get in the way of your plan. Like this morning, we're both down in Florida. It's tough. to me, it's really tough to train down here because the time in which you have to go when it's this time of year, and it will persist well into October with how hot it is. It's hard to run in the middle of the day. You really don't want to get out in the middle of the day here to start your training. I mean, you would really suffer. And so this morning, my son decided to, like, he was looking for a shirt. He just, like my little 5-year-old, he just ransacked his room, and I was just about on my way out to go for like a 45-minute easy run. And then I had to clean up there for about 45 minutes. And then I didn't get out till like after, 9. And then I just did a 30-minute easy run instead because I was just getting really overheated out there. So, just an example that stuff like that happens. It's absolutely pouring outside right now. We've been getting tons of rain here in Central Florida. So, but you guys have a treadmill, so that helps. And I'm very envious of that. We have a gym here that I can use to get on a treadmill, but truth be told, I absolutely, sometimes I get very, very bored on a treadmill. So
Yeah, the treadmill has actually been a huge help. And I still prefer to be outside, and I will do all my long runs outside. I really don't like to do anything more than like 5 or 6, but sometimes when you
Agreed.
get home from work and it's
Yes.
pouring down raining and I just want to get it done with, you can put something on the TV and just go
Yep.
and do your run real quick. Yeah, even Katie agrees, treadmill's been a game changer for us.
Yeah.
And we got a nice Nordic track, so it's been really nice to have.
Yep.
And it's funny because it's kind of the opposite here. Like in Florida, summer is kind of our winter where we spend way more time inside than out.
Yeah. I mean, you go out, you're here in August and September, you could get a dew point of 78, 80 degrees and, 100% humidity and, temperature of 78, 80 degrees, and it's 6:30 in the morning. It's brutal. But the humidity. So, and that's another thing Galloway talks about, and in your training plans where you have to make adjustments, is anything over 65 degrees. Typically, there's a school of thought where you have to kind of adjust the intended pace, by a certain amount. For every like 5 degrees, I think Galloway's theory is like 30 seconds or something like that. You're supposed to adjust. Typically, something like and
I think it's a minute.
It's a minute. Yeah, if you've been to a RunDisney race when it's been very warm, which is not all of them typically, but there's been ones that have been like above normal. Like the marathon the last couple times has been brutal, right? I mean, where they cut it
So
short
hot.
recently, right? And it's January, and that's very unusual. Look, where we have above normal weather here, temperature weather. So, that's another thing you got to adjust for the conditions and the weather too, and then inclusive of your trainings, not just on race days. So, yeah, your plan should be, I think, a script that helps you, but not something that you have to adhere to 100%.
And even when you like pull up the guides for most of these plans, a lot of them say you can switch these days around. You want to hit points A and point B. These are important, but you can make these changes. They're not set in stone. They've obviously worked for a lot of people, but probably 90% of those people have gone off the path of whatever plan that is.
Like, have you ever done 2-a-days? You ever had a plan where they call, because a lot of elites typically and non-elites, to get the volume, where they're going 75, 80, sometimes 100-mile weeks, they're doing 2-a-days, 7 miles in the morning, 4 miles at night, stuff like that. Have you ever done that before?
Not very consistently, only really one or twice. When I swam competitively, I did 2-a-days very often.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do that sort of volume and have that time to do 2-a-days.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, or sometimes you just have to break it up if something calls for 6 and you only have time for 3, maybe 3 you finish at night or something like that, stuff like that.
Yeah, I am going to pop this comment here and then kind of go off of that because that's just a good segue for another question that we get all the time. Probably like the question that I've gotten the most from different like messages since we've started doing this show is kind of talking about how you actually get faster, how you build that speed. I mean, I run my PR for a half is a 125, which is like a 6:30 pace. I know that's not professional or anything, but in the Run Disney community, that is definitely a faster pace. I, like Kara in the comments, start pretty much all our races out of Corral A. But I, first off, did not start in Corral A, and my first 3 halves were all well over 2-hour halves. So it did take a lot of training and time to kind of build that pace. And I mean, I kind of hit on talking about doing speed work, but I'll touch on that a little bit closer. Steve, feel free to kind of chime in at any point if you want. But my big two speed works are typically repeats and tempo runs. Tempo runs typically aren't super long runs, but what they do is they start at an easier, more comfortable pace. And throughout the run, you will basically build speed until typically when you're at the last leg of your run, you're running either your race pace or slightly faster than that. And if you just search tempo run, you're going to find like 12 different answers of how people like to do their tempo runs or how they prescribe them. But that is generally along the lines, typically like maybe every half a mile or so, I'll basically pick up the pace to whatever, drop 10 seconds a mile, 20 seconds a mile, however it is. And then repeats, specifically for the distance training we're doing, 400s, 800s, and mile repeats are what I tend to do. 800s are actually my favorite. I just think that distance for repeats is a little less cumbersome than miles, but still a little bit better than the 400s when it comes to kind of keeping pace at a distance. So those are really like, especially the 800s, when I was really looking to drop time, I was doing a lot of 800s, basically working towards that race pace until I was able to consistently do them at the pace I wanted.
Yeah. So I'm, it's kind of an oxymoron to say like me doing speed work because I've never been fast. I'm by no means a fast runner, but I'm proud of the progress that I've made. Never thought I'd be running a half marathon, never mind now trying to run a marathon. But what I have found is effective is practicing race pace, which would be typically through around a tempo run. So like midweek running a tempo run. So say you have a 6-mile run, you may have a 1 or 2 mile warm up, 2 miles at 2-3 miles at like a tempo pace, which might be 30 seconds slower than your race pace, and then a mile cool down. So tempo runs have been helpful. And what I've done is going in, I listened to Seth James Damore on YouTube, SJD. I don't know, Blake, if you've seen Seth James Damore before. He does a lot of run shoe reviews, but also a lot of advice around running and training plans. And his big thing, especially anything over a half marathon and up, is to just focus on your aerobic base and easy running, like I said before. And then what I'll put in is striders a lot of times. So when I'm trying to improve turnover and cadence and just start practicing picking up my feet and getting a little stronger with the run, because you are able to build muscle and build some strength while you're running, is put in some, like a strider would effectively be just like 100 meters of opening up your legs a little bit and running, almost not an interval pace necessarily, not an anaerobic work, but just a faster, steady state, and repeat at the end of a run, get in on tired legs, like 5 or 6, where you're just opening it up a little bit. So tempo and like some striders in there. When I was doing Hal Higdon, I was trying to do more of like, I don't have access to a track close by, which kind of stinks, but our lake is exactly a mile around. And so I was, do some interval work, and a 5K time trial thrown in here and there would help. So stuff like that. But tempo is usually the way to go for me. Practicing a little bit of the race-based goal.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest point you can make is if you're trying to run faster, you have to practice running faster.
Yep.
It's not necessarily going to just happen. Now, consistent training and, getting those workouts in definitely are a huge help, but you have to put the speed work in. And that's how you ultimately will build that speed. And I agree. I like striders as well. I don't do them nearly as often as I should. But striders are also like a great reminder at the end of like, your easy runs should be easy. They should be slow. Doing, 4 or 6 striders is a great reminder that, oh yeah, my legs can also do, fast things too.
Yeah. I like putting that in there, and just, sometimes it'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it I'm going to try to hold this pace for 30 seconds. And then the following time I do it, I'll try to hold a little faster pace for 30. And that's just how, that's literally, I think in my experience, how every block has been like 8 miles felt really tough this week. Next week, maybe 9 miles is going to feel exactly the same, but you've now gone an extra mile. Right. It's just, and the other rule of thumb that I've understood is never increase your mileage from week to week more than 20% from the week before. Sometimes people get away with it, but typically I think it's understood that that's a way to kind of get yourself hurt if you're increasing your mileage too fast, too quickly in a block. So there's no shortcuts. If you did 10 miles and then a week you couldn't get in the 12 miler, and then you're working towards 14 the next week, I don't know if you want to go from 10 to 14. That might be a little tough. Hard to take shortcuts.
Yeah, that's it too. Just slowly building up that distance, building up that endurance. I always say, when I'm doing the long runs, it's always that last 2 miles. That's always what hurts, and that's usually because that's the furthest 2 miles that I've gone since the last time I've ran whatever that distance was. So, I ran 11 last week. I ran 13 this week. It was the last 2 miles that were kind of rough for me. But you can walk those extra. Kara says you can walk those extra too.
That's right.
But I don't think we have any other questions here. I did want to give Wendy a shout out. Wendy's been following us for a little while, kind of after the Run Disney seasons ended, so we didn't get a chance to be part of any of our shows. So this was the first show she got to be a part of, but had sent me a nice message about being excited for them and looking forward for you guys running your first Princess Weekend coming up.
Awesome.
You have anything else you want to hit on before we go?
No, I got some ideas though going forward, but I'd like to incorporate some of the research and some of the consensus information that's out there and bring it in here, because I don't want to speak too much off the cuff. I'm not an expert, not trained, not a run coach, not a dietitian by any means, but I do spend some time trying to. I listen to the podcasts while I'm running, read the books when I'm not running. We're always kind of exchanging information, chopping it up a little bit. So this is good. It's helpful to think about right now too, to get motivated to get into this as training block as it just starts.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do this show right around this time. We're kind of hitting that. I said 16, but it's actually about 17 weeks out from the marathon weekend. So a good kind of reminder for people to get on a plan. I kind of BS'd my way through the marathon through Dopey last year, and definitely struggled quite a bit. Wendy also mentioned that we need more shoe talk from Steve. We'll definitely have more gear talk. Before marathon weekend last year, we did a whole episode related to gear and what we wore for different races.
Not Hoka's, Joey.
I'm on Team Hoka, though I do have a pair of New Balances on the way. I'm excited to give a try to. But I have two brand new pairs of the Mach 4s up on my shelves ready to go for when my current pair.
I heard the 5s are pretty good, and they changed the foam in there too.
Yeah, the 4s were on discount, and I knew they were working really well for me. So I went ahead and just figured if I don't know what I'm missing, then the 4s will just keep working for me.
Yeah, I have the 4s. I like one of my favorite Hoka shoes. I've tried the Rincon Carbon X. I've never had a Clifton.
I actually still like the combination of switching between my Mach 4s and my Cliftons is like perfect. Like I wore the Cliftons for the long run today.
Yeah,
and they were just Sometimes it's just like that extra padding is just what I need, especially after a long day of work and I wear like
Yeah.
uncomfortable shoes.
Oh God, I've got you're gonna I have the Alpha Fly 2s. Yes, I'm way slower than like yes, elite runners run in Alpha Flies. You can run in any shoes you want to run in. They're very helpful. To me, I like them a lot. Team Mizuno. I never ran into Mizuno before. I'm a bit of a I don't think I have an allegiance to Nike. I just tend to race in. I like their Vaporflies and their Alpha Flies. So I have the Vaporfly next to. I have 2 pairs of the Alpha Fly 2s, 2 pairs of the Alpha Flies. I've got the Mach 4s. I've got some Pumas in there actually that I like. The newer Puma line's good. Lake's like this. How many shoes do you have, buddy? Why
Oh,
do
I
you
know
need
you.
shoes?
I know I'm here for it. I know you have a lot. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had more.
Dude, I have the New Balance RC Elite 2s and I love my Saucony Endorphin Speeds. Those are great.
I would
Those are
like
one of
to
my
get a pair
favorites.
of those eventually. I've heard nothing but good
$75 right
things.
now.
Yeah.
The Endorphin Speed 2s on their website, $75. If you need a run shoe deal, DM me. I think
I do probably about 2 or 3 times a week we get the Steve shoe message.
Yep. It's hard for me to
That's where I picked up the New Balance from.
Yep. It's hard for me to I'm at the point where it's like I have to talk myself out of not buying stuff. Like I'm just like, no, I don't need that. Especially my wife doesn't think I need any more shoes for probably 3 years, but you can get so I have never paid full price for any of these shoes. I got the Alpha Flies for for the Alpha Fly 2s for $154. They retail for $275. So yeah, there's ways. Just the price that's on there, you don't have to, and sometimes you just get last year's model. So yeah, Vaporflies. I've never paid full price for any of these shoes.
Yeah,
Ever.
last year's model is a nice way if you want to try different shoes.
Yep.
And I mean, also though, most running stores have their 30-day exchange. Most running online retailers do as well. You know, if any of a shoe you purchase doesn't work out for you, you can return them and they'll let you switch them out.
I think people get a little bit intimidated, like they don't like if they see, elite runners running in a shoe. Like I'm not fast enough for that shoe. That's not true. The shoes now are very much for a wide audience, and they can help you, whatever is right for your gait cycle. I think feel is probably the number one way people buy shoes. Not just how to go try them on, how they feel on feet, not what someone tells you to buy, not what they tell you you need, just the way they feel. So, you can, Kara, I'll hook you up next time. Don't worry.
Not only that, most of those like carbon plated shoes are those companies' best foams, pretty much their like best designs, best rocking.
Yeah.
So there's no reason that wouldn't benefit most people. Now, some of those shoes, they do kind of make your form a little bit different because they kind of slap you down in a way, depending on which style and model you have. So you may not like them for that, but anyone can wear them. There's no one size fits all by any means.
I think there's weird little things like the drop in a shoe. So like ultra shoes are your 0 drop shoes typically, and some people like that. And then like you got Brooks, like the Ghost, or like those 12 millimeter drop. They're big drop shoes, so the drop from the heel to the forefoot. I've not felt good when there's been like a low drop in a shoe, like a 4 millimeter drop. That's why some Hokas, I think the Rincon had a very low drop.
Most Hokas are around 4 or 5.
Yeah, and that works. It just works your calf and your ankles and your feet just a little differently from that, the difference in stack height. So stuff like that, Matt, depending on where you land, how whatever your gait cycle is. Again, what works for somebody may not work for you. I could do I can go on about gear all day.
Do multiple shows on gears.
Oh my God. Every single day I'm looking at gear.
Go to your local running store, get sized, figure out what works, try different things.
Yes.
I think we're both a fan of shoe rotation now, having multiple different pairs, but that's also not for everyone as well.
I think if you want to, I think if you can afford it and you can have at least 2 shoes in your rotation, I would say. Don't run in the same exact shoe every single time. If you can afford it and it's a priority to you, I would not run in the same shoe every single time.
Your shoes will last longer, and it's better for the foam too if you give them like a day off after using them.
Yeah, and it will work. It will work a little different part of you depending on the ergonomics of the shoe, and that'll help offset some of the compound stress that is on your body. So
that
rotate
actually
the shoes.
I'll make one last quick point, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Kind of talking about like running differently and landing differently. Another thing I do like to do is some of my easy days is go and hit the trails, get off the road.
Mm-hmm.
We have a local trail. It's a mountain biking trail. So it's got some kind of weird different terrain and stuff. But usually when I'm done those runs, I feel like it hits way different parts of my legs, works your balance a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And not every trail is going to be quite like that. There's plenty of, different regular trails. Typically, they're a little bit less intense on your body overall as well. But that's another great thing I like to do, usually on my slower recovery style runs.
Yep.
And they tend to be a little bit more fun.
Yep. I think that's where the treadmill can come in handy too. A little different terrain. It's got a little give. And in Florida, you have a hard time finding elevation. You could get elevation on your treadmill.
Yep. All right. Well, it's been quite the show. We actually kind of caught up on a lot of different news because we haven't done a show, I think, since April now? Something like that. April, May.
That's been that long.
And that is kind of the point of our show. We are not a consistent week after week. As Run Disney begins to return here, we will, probably pick up the shows, but typically no more than every other week. I don't expect to say that we're going to have a show in 2 weeks, but we'll probably have at least one more show before Wine and Dine, maybe once we get information on the expo and the courses. And then leading into marathon weekend, we'll kind of pick up the shows a little bit more. We'll talk, more training, gear, or excitement for marathon weekend, because that tends to be a lot of people's big weekends. And then we always do a wrap-up show for each of the weekends afterwards. So we'll have a recap of all of those weekends as well. But thank you all so much for watching. And Steve, thank you for joining me. Also, thanks to Steve K. He did have to dip out a little bit early on us, but that's okay.
Yeah, thanks. This was awesome. Good time.
Yeah, and thank you guys all in the comments. This is probably the most active live show we've had comment-wise in a while. So that is exciting. It's actually super encouraging to continue doing shows like this. But thank you all so much for watching again. If you like the show, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all of that fun YouTube-y stuff. If you're watching on the DCL Podcast Facebook, make sure to like them there as well. But both of our links you will be able to find down below, and they are also, I believe, in the at the end of the show here. But I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thanks, guys.